Have you ever stopped to think about how nations, um, especially those that have been through immense struggle, like really deep conflict, how they manage to rebuild?
It's more than just rebuilding, isn't it? It's about finding a path forward, maybe even an extraordinary one.
Exactly. How do they forge this journey towards something genuinely brighter, more sustainable? How do you get a whole population behind a single vision, building, from the ground up?
It's a fascinating question. And often when you dig into it, you find these really surprising approaches, incredible resilience, and just sheer human ingenuity. It often turns out the most powerful progress, well, it comes from within.
That is precisely what we're diving into today. We're exploring Eritrea's path, a path towards sustainable development that seems, well, pretty unique and deeply impactful. We're going to try and unpack how this nation, it's in the Horn of Africa, is very strategically empowering its citizens, all 3.6 million of them.
And guided by these core principles, right? Principles that have clearly shaped its destiny since independence.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, our understanding is really rooted in a detailed account from Eri-TV.
Yeah, this source gives us a really comprehensive look, doesn't it? It looks at the country's progress, and importantly, it brings in perspectives from international observers, people who've actually been there on the ground.
Right, witnessing it firsthand. So our mission today is, well, it's clear. We want to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from this Eri-TV material,
Uncover maybe some surprising facts along the way.
hopefully,
Uh,
and really get to the heart of the strategies, the philosophy driving Eritrea's development story. It's not just about the numbers, is it? It's the why and the how.
and you see that philosophy straight away, actually. The source mentions an international representative from the UN family who arrived there in June 2024.
Okay.
And they apparently expressed being quite impressed with the country's resilience and self-reliance right from the get-go.
Wow, first impression.
Yeah. And they also mentioned the people's hospitality, the natural richness.
Yeah.
It made it a meaningful assignment for them personally. That says a lot, I think.
It certainly does. That really sets the stage. Okay, let's unpack this vision then. A nation building its future, seemingly from the inside out. Let's start with those foundational principles you mentioned. Forging a future. Eritrea's foundational principles. So let's ground ourselves first. Eritrea, strategically located in the Horn of Africa, its independence, 1991. It wasn't handed over.
No, absolutely not. The Eri-TV source calls it a historic struggle. Hard won.
Right, and out of that struggle, that period of, immense challenge, immense sacrifice, it embarked on what the source calls an extraordinary journey towards sustainable development.
It's quite a narrative. Not
Mhm.
just picking up the pieces, but very intentionally building something specific, something self-determined.
And what's really fascinating, as you touched on, is how these core principles weren't just dreamed up later. They seem forged in that history, right?
Yep, exactly. The Eri-TV report makes it clear they're explicitly stated as the drivers for, well, pretty much everything in their development strategy. Social justice, for instance.
Okay.
It's highlighted as a fundamental principle, not just lip service, but a core commitment, guiding how they approach development, aiming for, fairness and resources and opportunities.
So it translates into a real plan, not just an ideal.
Mhm.
And the thing that really leaps out that the Eri-TV account stresses as central, almost defining, is self-reliance.
That's the big one.
It's positioned as the key element, isn't it? Offering, and this is quite a statement, meaningful lessons not just for Africa, but for the rest of the world.
It's bold, yeah. But it seems rooted in their experience, their history of charting their own course, a deep belief in their own capacity.
And it's not just self-reliance in isolation, is it?
No, no. National sovereignty, social cohesion, these are just as deeply embedded in the vision, according to the source.
And how does that play out practically?
Well, national sovereignty seems to mean prioritizing their own national interests, making decisions internally. Social cohesion implies this real effort to bring diverse communities together around shared national goals.
Okay.
Empowering all of this, the source says, is a deliberate strategy to empower Eritreans themselves, all 3.6 million citizens,
Empowering them how?
to shape their own destinies, essentially, making sure development isn't just done for them, but by them, cultivating participation, ownership at every level.
So right away, you get this picture of a really strong national identity, clear principles driving everything, like its own operating system for development. But that term, self-reliance, what does it actually look like on the ground? Does it mean cutting themselves off?
That's a really good question, and that international representative's comment maybe shed some light.
Hmm.
They saw Eritrea's commitment and emphasis on national sovereignty and social cohesion as holding lessons for others
Right.
globally. So it doesn't sound like isolationism. It seems more like building strength from within first, using their own resources, their own capacity as the foundation.
It's a solid base.
Exactly. Then any external engagement, any partnerships, they become amplifiers, not dependencies. It's about being, masters of their own fate. And that in itself can be inspiring, too. Cornerstone investments: water, agriculture, and green energy.
Okay, let's move into those practicalities then, because some of them are, frankly, astounding. Those cornerstone investments, water, agriculture, green energy. The Eri-TV source talks about water infrastructure, specifically about 800 dams built since independence.
800. It's worth pausing on that number, isn't it, for a nation of 3.6 million?
It's huge. It speaks to an incredible national effort, mobilization on a massive scale.
And the impact, according to the source, has been profound. Predictably, maybe, it led to a surge in water access.
Which then feeds into agriculture.
Directly. Boosted agricultural productivity across the nation. It's that classic ripple effect from foundational infrastructure. But what's critical, the Eri-TV report points out, is the vision behind it. It wasn't just about storing water. The goal is for the water sector to be fully utilized.
Fully utilized.
For improving the agricultural value chain, creating jobs, generating wealth. The source mentions huge potential for both public and private investment here. It's a long-term strategic view of a vital resource.
And the logistics, just imagine identifying the sites, finding the labor, often in tough conditions, coordinating it all. That takes serious national resolve.
Absolutely. And we do have some concrete numbers that show the impact. Drinking water availability, for example.
Okay, what are they saying?
It climbed from 72% back in 2015 to 79% today, nationally, which is significant progress.
And in cities?
Even more striking, urban areas apparently achieved an impressive 95% availability.
95%? Wow.
But crucially, it's not just the cities. The source highlights innovation in rural areas, too. They've built water supply schemes in very remote areas.
And these are just standard schemes?
Get this, they're fitted with solar systems.
Ah, interesting.
And designed to be climate resilient. So it's not just meeting today's need, it's forward thinking. Building in sustainability, green tech right from the start, making them robust for the future.
That really raises important questions about managing resources sustainably, doesn't it? Especially in challenging climates. The scale of the dams alone is one thing, but adding solar power for remote water access? That's remarkable.
It shows it's not a patchwork approach, right? It's a long-term strategy. Proactively thinking about immediate needs and future environmental challenges, building resilience right into the infrastructure. It's almost like a blueprint for how nations, maybe with limited resources, can leapfrog old tech by embedding sustainability from day one.
And speaking of sustainability, that commitment seems to extend to land management too, reforestation programs.
Yes, ambitious ones,
Yep.
according to Eri-TV. They're not just planting trees randomly. They're systematically adopting sustainable land management practices alongside it.
With dual benefits, I imagine.
Exactly. Combating deforestation, which is a global issue, obviously, but also directly boosting agricultural productivity and, ultimately, food security. It's holistic, seeing the connection between environmental health and human well-being.
And this seems to reach the coasts as well. The report mentions fisheries.
It does. A specific and quite dramatic improvement. Fish production apparently increased by nearly 70% just between 2023 and 2024.
70% in 1 year.
Yeah. And the source calls it a good deal for coastal communities. So again, you see these broader strategies translating into direct, tangible benefits for local people. Better livelihoods, food, economic stability. It shows how that top-down strategy can fuel grassroots empowerment.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. You see that direct line. Proactive water management, careful land stewardship, leading straight to more food. Crops, yes, but also that nearly 70% jump in fish production. It's a full circle.
It really is. It shows a deep understanding of how these systems link together ecologically and economically.
And then there's renewable energy. The Eri-TV report calls it another cornerstone of their development agenda.
Exactly. Solar photovoltaic systems, specifically. The report details how they're systematically bringing electricity to communities that were previously off-grid.
Which must be transformative.
Absolutely. It's more than just light bulbs, isn't it? It's empowering local economies, new opportunities for evening study, small businesses running longer hours, just improving quality of life in areas where a traditional grid might be totally impractical or too expensive.
And the government's commitment is clear.
Very clear, according to the source. Terms like energy transformation, environmental green energy, moving to more sustainable sources, they appear consistently.
Is this being noticed outside Eritrea?
It seems so. The UNDP, for instance. The source says they've observed huge impacts on the ground from these efforts, specifically mentioning more access to energy and communities becoming more resilient.
And they welcomed the focus on green energy.
Yes. The report says UNDP expressed happiness seeing the commitment to green energy and climate resilience. That external validation really underscores the effectiveness of their strategy.
If you connect that to the bigger picture, the global need to shift to green energy, Eritrea's targeted approach for off-grid communities seems incredibly practical.
It really does. It shows how a nation can tackle its energy needs sustainably, even with, as the source says, limited resources. They focus where the impact is most immediate and life-changing for people. It's a model of strategic deployment, really. Offers lessons for others facing similar energy challenges. 3. Human capital development, health and education breakthroughs.
All right, let's shift focus a bit, pivot to human capital, because ultimately that's the foundation for any nation's future, isn't it? The people.
Absolutely fundamental.
And the Eri-TV source talks about remarkable progress in Eritrea's healthcare sector, not just a general improvement, but a pillar of their development efforts, especially in maternal and child health.
Yes. Really tangible achievements there, like preventing mother-to-child HIV transmission effectively and significantly expanding care for newborns.
Which impacts mortality rates.
Directly, leading to substantial reductions in infant and child mortality. These are really core indicators of a functioning public health system.
And the stats back this up.
They do. According to Eri-TV, a striking 81% of all births now happen in health facilities.
81%. That's huge for safer deliveries, reducing complications.
Exactly. Essential postnatal care, too.
Yeah.
But even more remarkable, perhaps, is the immunization figure.
Ah, yes, you mentioned this earlier.
The report states almost 100% of all children under 2 in the country are fully immunized.
Almost 100%. That's hard to even comprehend.
The source explicitly calls it a major milestone.
Yeah.
And you can see why. Achieving that kind of coverage across a whole country, especially with what the report notes as lean resources, it points to an incredibly robust primary healthcare system and an amazing commitment to outreach.
Okay, let's really unpack that. Near 100% immunization for under 2s. And that image the source paints. Health workers literally getting on camels.
To reach the most inaccessible hinterlands or parts of the communities.
Ensuring no child is left behind. I mean, that's not just policy, that's incredible dedication. Logistical ingenuity.
It really is.
And the source says Eritrea has one of the highest immunization coverage comparatively amongst African member states, despite those very tight or lean resources. It's not just having the vaccines, is it? It's the massive effort, the belief in universal access to get them to every single child. That speaks volumes about equity.
And that dedication extends beyond immunization. The report details a deliberate effort to eliminate FGM female genital mutilation.
A very sensitive and difficult issue.
Indeed. But the source notes many communities have already declared FGM free. Crucially, this is through joint efforts the community themselves and the government working together.
With a focus on prevention.
Yes, the focus mentioned is ensuring young girls not cut, protecting the next generation. That's significant social change happening alongside medical progress.
What about other areas like HIV?
The source highlights a really ambitious shift there, moving from just controlling infection to talking about elimination.
Elimination. That implies a high degree of success already.
It certainly suggests a very ambitious, forward-looking strategy, moving beyond just managing the problem.
So they're tackling immediate needs, historical practices, but also looking ahead, investing in future preparedness.
Exactly. The Eri-TV report describes something it calls a groundbreaking genomic sequencing initiative.
Genomic sequencing? That sounds very advanced.
It is. It enhances their capacity for epidemic surveillance, ensuring faster, more effective responses to infectious disease threats.
How did they manage to prioritize something like that, especially with those lean resources the source keeps mentioning?
It seems it was a strategic choice, supported by the World Health Organization. Eritrea identified it as a critical technology for strengthening their emergency preparedness and response capacities.
And the significance of having it in country.
Huge. The Eri-TV source says Eritrea is now one of the few African countries with this tech. It means their national lab can test locally for diseases of public health concern.
Cutting out the need to ship samples abroad.
Precisely. Which can be incredibly slow, expensive, and difficult, especially when time is critical during an outbreak. They mention the activation of their PCR laboratory as the baseline for this capability.
PCR, that's the tech we all heard about during COVID, right? For rapid detection.
Exactly. So having that foundation allows them to move into the more detailed genomic sequencing. In today's world, with global health threats, investing in this kind of capacity shows real foresight. It's proactive public health, not just reacting, but future-proofing.
This focus on human potential naturally leads us to education. The Eri-TV source calls it the cornerstone of future development.
Unequivocally. And you see that in the actions described. Building schools, enhancing teacher training, ensuring equitable access to quality learning.
Yeah.
It's all about empowering the youth.
Are enrollment rates up?
Significantly, according to the report, and notably, particularly among girls.
That's key for gender equality.
Absolutely. The statistic that over 85% of girls are now reaching grade 5, which wasn't the case in the past, is critical. It's not just getting them in the door, but keeping them there, building that foundation.
And inclusivity.
Mentioned specifically, specialized schools for learners with disabilities, embodying that no one is left behind, principle in education too, catering to diverse needs, nurturing potential.
And it's not just chalk and talk, is it? Technology plays a role.
A big role. The report details remarkable strides in integrating ICT information and communication technologies.
How so?
Deployment of ICT resources, including computers and solar power systems, across schools. There's that smart use of solar again, powering tech even in off-grid schools.
And training for teachers.
Essential. The source emphasizes that teachers and education managers are being equipped with the knowledge and expertise needed to harness technology effectively. It's not just dropping hardware, it's building capacity.
So it sounds comprehensive, but does the report acknowledge any challenges, or is it all positive?
No, it maintains a candid perspective, which adds credibility, I think. It does acknowledge challenges remain, specifically mentioning quality of learning and infrastructure.
Okay.
But it frames this as an ongoing effort, detailing continued investment in teaching materials, digital tools, and focusing on getting better outcomes for disadvantaged children.
That transparency is important. It shows a mature approach acknowledging where more work is needed.
Exactly. It's not about presenting a perfect picture, but demonstrating a robust, self-aware development process focused on the long haul.
So what does this all mean for the next generation? It really sounds like they're building a comprehensive system: access, gender equity, tech, acknowledging challenges.
If you connect it to the bigger picture, this kind of deep investment in human capital through education, especially with that focus on equality, inclusion, and tech, is fundamental for sustainable economic growth, for societal progress. It's about creating an informed, capable, adaptable population. That's the real engine for self-reliance, isn't it? A nation's greatest resource is its people. 4F, holistic progress, social welfare, and infrastructure development.
Okay, moving on to another piece of this holistic picture: social welfare. The Eri-TV report frames these programs as really embodying Eritrea's dedication to lifting up its most vulnerable citizens.
And crucially, it's not just about handouts or temporary relief.
Right, it seems focused on long-term stability, self-sufficiency.
Exactly. The Eri-TV account details programs ranging from agricultural training to entrepreneurship development. The goal is clear: fostering a culture of self-sufficiency, resilience, innovation, and social cohesion within these communities.
So equipping people with skills, opportunities.
And the right mindset, enabling them to thrive, not just survive, avoiding dependency. The source explicitly links this strategic investment in human capital through social welfare to laying a solid foundation for long-term economic growth and sustainable development.
It ties right back into that core principle of self-reliance, doesn't it? Making sure everyone is part of the journey.
Precisely. And that observation we heard earlier about the resilience of the people of Eritrea meeting challenges with confidence. The Eri-TV report brings this up frequently.
That inherent strength, cultivated perhaps partly through these programs, that must be invaluable when you're building a nation from within, especially with those lean resources.
It speaks volumes about the effectiveness of these programs, doesn't it? Not just meeting immediate needs, but fostering this deep-seated societal character capable of confronting difficulty, adapting, innovating. That resilience is a critical, intangible asset. It fuels everything else. It's a virtuous cycle. Empowered people boost national resilience, which helps development initiatives succeed.
And then you need to connect all these empowered communities, these productive sectors. Infrastructure comes in here.
Yes, the Eri-TV report highlights the development of new roads and increased transportation options.
Why is that important in this model?
It accelerates development, enhances economic opportunities for everyone. It's about physically linking the pieces. Better infrastructure means easier movement of goods, produce, people, ideas.
Stimulating local economies.
Exactly, opening up markets for farmers, artisans,
Mm.
and reinforcing that self-sufficiency and social cohesion that are so central to their model. So it's clear it's not just about big top-down projects. It seems deeply rooted in strengthening communities from within, ensuring everyone, from the remote farmer to the urban entrepreneur, has a way to contribute and benefit. Integrating the whole nation, v. the Eritrean model. Self-reliance and global partnership.
Okay, let's try and bring all these threads together now. What truly defines this Eritrean model? That emphasis on self-reliance is key, but how does it mesh with global partnerships? That seems like a fascinating intersection.
It really is. And the Eri-TV source doesn't shy away from it. It calls self-reliance the most interesting lesson from Eritrea, stressing it's deeply ingrained in the philosophy of the government.
The core feature.
Unquestionably. The report characterizes the whole approach as state-driven development in every sector. And crucially, it notes this is continued amidst the background of limited resources.
So an active internal strategy, not just reacting to external forces.
Exactly. Prioritizing national capacity, domestic solutions, which is quite notable when many developing nations have historically relied or still rely heavily on external aid. It suggests a deliberate choice to fund and manage their own progress, even if it means maybe a different pace or different priorities, a belief in their own capabilities.
And the source suggests this could be inspiring for others.
Yes, it presents it as an inspiration for everybody, particularly focusing on many African countries. Especially now, it suggests, with the global landscape changing, a decline of official diplomatic assistance, shifts in global finance.
So the idea is for nations to look inward more.
To proactively explore its own resources, become more self-reliant, shifting from dependency to agency. It definitely feels like a timely message, doesn't it, with traditional aid models being reevaluated everywhere.
It does. Is self-reliance just a theory, or is it policy?
Very much policy, according to Eri-TV. It's a policy option that's quite there already and actively locally promoted. This local ownership, this internal drive, is what the source argues makes their development efforts most sustainable.
Sustainable in the long run.
That's the implication. And the source expresses real confidence. If Eritrea continues to progress in the trajectory it's on, achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, is described as only a matter of time. That's a powerful statement about the perceived durability of their path. True sustainability coming from internal strength.
It does raise a big question, though, doesn't it? How adaptable is this model? It seems so rooted in Eritrea's specific history, its struggle. Can other nations with different contexts really emulate it effectively?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. It's certainly a powerful message for any nation seeking more independence, more control over its own destiny, a different way of thinking about aid and internal capacity.
But what's equally fascinating, and maybe counterintuitive to some, is how this intense self-reliance aligns with robust global partnerships.
Right. It's not necessarily contradictory.
Apparently not.
Uh-huh.
The Eri-TV report says Eritrea's multifaceted development journey aligns seamlessly with the UN SDGs. It suggests internal strength can actually amplify external partnerships, not prevent them.
How so?
Well, their achievements, detailed in the report, clean water, affordable energy, gender equality, climate action, these all underscore how their self-driven efforts connect with broader global goals. It shows you can be self-sufficient and a collaborative global citizen.
And they have a track record. It's not just recent.
According to the source, yes. Eritrea was apparently one of the few countries that met key indicators for the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, which came before the SDGs.
That's significant. Consistency over decades.
It speaks to long-term planning and execution. And the report says they are now yet on course to achieving the health-related SDGs.
And partnerships with UN agencies are strong.
Very strong, it seems. UNDP, UNICEF, WAO, the Global Fund. The Eri-TV report details continued collaboration and commitment supporting Eritrea's goals, especially on health.
So self-reliance provides a foundation for equal partnership.
That's how it appears. Not dependency, but collaboration based on shared goals and mutual respect. The report mentions Eritrea is leaving no one behind. Health mantra aligns closely with the WHO's universal health coverage agenda, National priorities meeting global ones. Powerful synergy.
It's really clear from this deep dive. We're seeing a nation making truly significant strides, driven by these strong principles, innovating remarkably even with lean resources, but also working effectively with global partners.
Hmm.
The Eri-TV source timed this report around the 34th anniversary of Eritrea's independence, a moment, it says, to honor that spirit of reliance, the spirit of resilience that define Eritrea.
A celebration of over 3 decades of determined nation building. A story maybe not always visible on the global stage.
And fittingly, the UN family apparently extended congratulations, reaffirming that partnership and support for Eritrea's ongoing goals: peace, dignity, sustainable development.
It's a powerful testament, isn't it, to the nation's progress and maybe a growing recognition of its UNIMID model. Proof, perhaps, that internal strength is the bedrock for lasting external relationships. Outro.
So as we wrap up this a really fascinating deep dive, let's just quickly recap the core insights. We've seen Eritrea's unwavering commitment to self-reliance and social justice as these constant driving forces.
The engine behind it all.
We've explored the comprehensive progress: water, agriculture, energy, health, education, really across the board.
Groundbreaking achievements in some areas.
Absolutely. And crucially, we've seen this strong alignment with global sustainability goals, navigated alongside internal challenges and those resource constraints.
For me, the real aha moment is that blend. The clear national vision, that deep community resilience you see evidence of, and the practical, often innovative solutions on the ground.
It's not just one thing, is it?
No, it's how they all interconnect. It feels like a coherent ecosystem of progress, not just isolated projects.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this? Maybe the biggest takeaway as we finish this deep dive is to really think about the implications of this model: state-driven development, succeeding amidst limited resources.
It's not the narrative we hear most often, is it? Especially when the focus is so often on external aid as the main driver for progress in developing nations.
Exactly.
Which raises a really important question for all of us, I think. In a world facing so many complex challenges, information overload, can that deep-seated commitment to internal strength, to ingenuity, to self-determination, the kind exemplified by Eritrea according to this source, can that genuinely pave the way for a more equitable, more sustainable future for everyone?
And could that emphasis on self-reliance, on locally promoted development, could it offer valuable lessons, maybe alternative frameworks for tackling not just global issues, but maybe even challenges in our own lives, when faced, with limited resources, but hopefully unlimited determination?
It definitely leaves you pondering the profound power of vision, resilience, and unwavering commitment, doesn't it? A lot
Yeah.
to think about.